Thank you for coming to this workshop. We weren't sure what the audience would be like, and it's great to have so many people interested in this subject. As Mike said, it's amazing what a strong regulation with potential caps on penalties going up to 4% of annual turnover for international companies. It's amazing what that will do for interest. But we're focusing on is not as much to the legal aspects, although obviously the legal aspects of the General Data Protection Regulation are the driver for a lot of the growing interest in privacy management, data protection management. I'll use the terms interchangeably. The real focus that we have, and the reason we're calling this a workshop, as Gershon said, is we need input. We're attempting to use our OASIS PMRM, the Privacy Management Reference Model and Methodology specification. It's a specification that our committee developed. Don has been on the committee, Antonio, Gershon, and others in OASIS. And we're attempting to move that into a practical tool that practitioners can use. And so one of the purposes of this workshop is to start at the high level with insights from some of us, if you find them valuable, and then move much more into the concrete. That is, how do you pull together an actual compliance strategy where you can build privacy compliance systems? And I'm not talking about making them legally satisfactory. I'm talking about actually delivering privacy in systems, and it's a very challenging issue to deal with. So we're going to start at the outside. We do have handouts. If you need a handout at one of the breaks between speakers, they're up front if you don't have one. They really provide an overview of both this methodology, the PMRM, as well as the reverse side, a overview of our intended software project, which will be an open source repository, and there's a good deal of information on that. So my talk, we're exploring compliance and the linkages to privacy engineering. We talk in the abstract for this session about a lot of things we're going to make available to you, our insights or thoughts on these issues. So I've highlighted the real core of this. Comprehensive controls. Functionality. In other words, if you're going to be compliant and your organization or company truly cares about A, compliance with the GDPR and or other regulations, as well as the ability to demonstrate compliance in the operation of those systems, then you need to have functionality in place to do that. And so we're going to discover a little bit where we are in terms of making that functionality available and explain our rationale for that. Do we have the tools for your technical teams, your software engineering teams, your developers, or your service providers? Do they have the tools they need to deliver the privacy that is required by your policies and law? Can you manage changes to the management of your privacy in these today cloud-based and extended systems? And finally, how do you move from very abstract principles to the actual mechanisms, whether it's through software or business processes that deliver privacy? It's obvious to all of you if you're here, I made the point that 510 million citizens of European Union countries, including Great Britain, I'm not sure how that subtraction will work when Brexit is completed, are covered by this. And obviously, companies that process and collect and manage data from citizens of European Union member states, in fact, are covered by the GDPR. So this is a huge impact globally. And we believe, and again, this is a workshop, so if you have comments or you want to hold them till the end, that's fine. But we believe that we need a privacy engineering discipline to actually provide the solutions. And the discipline is a set of competencies as well as the tools from engineers who are specialists in privacy management. And by the way, the slides that we're showing you now will be available after the conference, posted online, as well as the videos, hopefully, if the videos are watchable because of people like me. So how do we address the delivery of principles, regulations, and policies? How do you translate control requirements into actual mechanisms? There's a whole series of questions that lead you into delivering privacy through functionality, and that's what we're going to be talking about today. The GDPR is a catalyst for this, so questions on jump-starting would be, well, how do you do this in a structured manner? How can you make it an efficient, cost-effective, reliable compliance without a privacy engineering discipline? How can you do this? Our experience tells us in working with members of our committee who are consultants and deal with their clients is that there is not a commonly accepted methodology, and we do not have this discipline available today, that we're relying on a collection of stakeholders. And in my talk, following Don's talk a little bit later this morning, I go into some detail on how the PMRM gives you that ability to manage privacy compliance and move towards functionality. So it's not easy, but we believe that this discipline is necessary. So we're really tying together the requirements of the GDPR, the need for a privacy engineering discipline, and our belief that our privacy management reference model and methodology is actually a tool that can be automated to allow you to do some of this, to make that job much more manageable. My analogy, why privacy engineering? I think this is relevant. You may or may not agree. If you are a civil engineer, this is the engineering profession. It's a professional discipline. It deals with design. It deals with construction, maintenance of the natural and physical environment, including bridges, canals, etc. It's always civil engineering. But the point is that civil engineering is actually a set of composite engineering skills and disciplines. It includes material science, earthquake. It includes geotechnical, water, structural engineering, wind loads, static loads, calculations. There's a huge set of underlying engineering disciplines that support the overall civil engineering community. So if you look at the construction of the new One World Trade Center in New York, this building could not have been built, not just because of the politics, the cost, the concerns about the building's actual physical security in terms of attacks, its ability to withstand what were then viewed as the types of attacks that might hit a building, but also the structural components, the internal systems, the HVAC, the fact that this building rests on bedrock but is on the right on the Hudson River on the tip of Manhattan, between the East and Hudson River. So you have a lot of factors that go into engineering this building, and why would we think that privacy is any less complicated, even though it doesn't deal with physical construction? If this is a simple, the PMRM, or methodology, is use case based, and you could say you could use agile development processes and use an agile process and have user stories. The bottom line, though, is that we say that you have to put a boundary around your privacy analysis. If you're going to engineer a solution, you're engineering it against a use case. And this is a very simple one. You have an insurance company, if I can get this laser to work, and it has multiple domains and systems to support a vehicle program initiative. And we've used this use case at a prior EIC a few years ago. And we don't have time to get into it, but the point I'm getting at is, as an illustration, there are multiple components. There's our control factors for the web portal. There's an agent portal, a data communications, customer portal, a development group, and they all have some role to play in delivering privacy functionality. You cannot really manage the extent of this against the requirements of the GDPR and your business policies without some kind of disciplined approach. And we'll be talking about that later. We have another analogy. Nist has an internal interagency review, 8062. They've just announced a new initiative in November for a specialty discipline of systems and security engineering. Systems engineering focused on security, and they did a NISTer on 8062, which is privacy engineering. This interagency review has been republished, I think, in late 2016, and it really has a definition of privacy. I'm not sure. My own view about it is it's a negative definition. It says it's a specialty discipline of systems engineering focused on achieving freedom from conditions that can create problems for individuals with unacceptable consequences that arise from the system as it processes PII. Other definitions are more on the constructive and positive side. Yes, we have a question here, sir.
Yes, when you were, I guess, about to talk about it, I was fascinated by your saying it was a negative definition. But could you just talk more about that?
Well, it's a discipline of engineering focused on achieving freedom from conditions that can create problems. And that's the Nist definition for privacy engineering. And my feeling that it was negative in that it doesn't say affirmatively that it's a discipline of systems engineering that, as you look at the prepare definition below it, risk-driven process that operationalizes the privacy by design philosophical framework within IT systems, and so on. In other words, it's freedom from conditions, but I would say for our purpose, we need an affirmative definition of privacy engineering that says this is what a privacy engineer does. If you see the distinction I'm making. You may disagree, but that's my own, that's not a committee viewpoint. MITRE has a similar to the prepare definition, systemic risk-driven process operationalizing privacy by design framework in IT systems. And ISO 27550 privacy engineering working definitions. Antonio is going to talk about this a bit later because he is leading that effort in the ISO community and the standards organization, and they're dealing with similarly the integration of privacy concerns and the engineering of information and communications technology systems, ICT systems. So the focus is engineering. The focus is, in the case of ICT, it's technical systems, it's software. It could also be the integration of business processes. But I think this is an important thing we're trying to drive, that the delivery of privacy ultimately is our objective. And the compliance with GDPR, of course, must be legally supportable, but it also should be demonstrable. In other words, you should be able to demonstrate accountability. I will talk later, very briefly, one of our members, Gail Magnuson, several months ago did a quick survey of the literature and things underway from the industry, focusing specifically on data protection privacy, not security. As you all know, I presume in here, security, it's a component of privacy. And security has a much more robust and huge array of standards, a huge array of technologies. All around EIC this year, you'll see tremendous technologies that support security. Many of them support data protection and privacy, but they're not necessarily supporting the integration of all of these components into a functional system. And this is where we're seeing the gap to some degree. They're not necessarily focused on data integrity issues, data quality issues, consent management issues, things like that. And these are also important aspects of privacy. So we'll talk about that later. So we're going to explore these issues, compliance, privacy engineering, and standards. And then at the very end, as Gershon mentioned, we've started some work. We're hoping to launch an open source community project to begin building a tool that will allow practitioners, whether you're a regulator, whether you're a business owner, whether you're a software engineer, an architect, et cetera, a way to contribute to what will be a functional system. And we will explain that in more detail.